Hey everyone, today we're putting on our hard hats and becoming digital architects. We're going to peel back the curtain and look at the actual blueprint behind all those cool websites and apps we use every single day. You know, how they go from a simple idea to a real working product. I mean, really, have you ever stopped to think about it? When you're ordering food or managing a project or streaming a show, there is so much happening behind that screen. It's definitely not magic, but it is a super structured and, honestly, a pretty fascinating process. And really, the best way to think about the companies that build these things is as digital architects. See, they don't just write code. That's just one part of it. They design and construct entire digital experiences, planning out every little detail, just like a real architect would design a skyscraper from the ground up. So, first up, let's take a look at the blueprint itself. What are these architects actually building for businesses? I'll give you a hint. It's a whole lot more than just a simple web page. Okay, here's a perfect example we can all relate to. An e-commerce platform. We all shop online, right? But behind that simple add to cart button is this incredibly powerful engine. It's built to handle everything. We're talking inventory, shipping, payments, the whole shebang. It's not just a catalog, it's a full-on business tool. And this is where you start to see how all the pieces fit together. Every single one of these features solves a real problem. You've got dashboards so sellers can manage their stuff, you need airtight order management for logistics, and you absolutely have to have secure payments to build trust. It's all connected. And what's the end game? Well, all those features, all that tech, it has to come together for one big reason: to make the shopping journey for the customer feel totally smooth and effortless. And at the same time, it's got to be built on a foundation that's strong enough to grow with the business, from a tiny startup to a huge brand.
But of course, it's not just about online stores. These digital architects build an amazing variety of things. You've got progressive web apps, which feel like native apps on your phone, but run right in the browser. Or entire software as a service. You've probably heard it called SaaS, products that power other businesses. Each one is a totally custom-built solution for a very specific need.
Okay, so we've seen what they build, but how in the world does a rough idea on a napkin become a real functioning product that people can use? Well, it's not chaos, that's for sure. It's a very strategic, step-by-step journey. Listen to this. Before a single line of code gets written, all the most important work happens right here. It all starts with discovery. That's just digging in and really getting what the business needs. Then comes UI/UX design. That's user interface and user experience. Basically, mapping out how a person will actually use the product to make it feel natural and easy. And only then do they plan the technical architecture, that digital foundation that has to hold everything else up. All right, once that foundation is solid, the construction can begin. You've got developers building the front end. That's everything you see and interact with, and the back end, which is the engine under the hood making it all work. Then they plug in other tools, test everything like crazy to find bugs, and then manage the big launch. And honestly, it never really stops. That ongoing maintenance is so important for keeping everything secure and running smoothly. Now, to pull all of this off, a digital architect can't just have a hammer and a screwdriver. They need a massive toolbox, just filled with all sorts of different technologies and programming languages. Let's take a quick peek inside. Whoa, okay, don't worry about trying to memorize all this. That's not the point. The big takeaway here is just how much expertise is required. A great architect knows which tools to pick for each unique job. It's kind of like a master chef choosing the perfect ingredients. They might use something called React for a super fast user interface and pair it with Node.js to make the server really efficient. It's all about picking the right tools for the job. So what happens when you combine that step-by-step process with all that technical know-how? Well, you get real-world success. This quote from a CEO really nails it. He highlights the two things that matter most: a product that's good enough to show investors and strong enough to handle real customers right from day one. That's the goal. And that kind of success isn't just a fluke. When you use this process over and over again, you build up a serious track record. I mean, delivering over 2,500 projects, that shows a level of experience that only comes from years and years of perfecting your craft. So let's say a business has the next big idea. How do they actually team up with these digital architects to get it built? Well, it turns out there are a few different ways to partner up, and it all depends on what you're trying to do. There's pretty much a model for any situation. If you're building a huge, long-term platform, you'd probably want a dedicated team that basically becomes a part of your company. But for a quick prototype, what's called a minimum viable product, a flexible contract makes way more sense. And sometimes you just need an expert to come in, look at what you have, and give you some solid advice. That's where consulting comes in. So, after all that, after looking at the what, the how, and the tools, we've landed at the most important point of all. The very best digital architects don't just build cool tech for the sake of it. They solve business problems. Every single feature, every line of code has to tie back to a business goal and actually deliver real, tangible value. At the end of the day, understanding this whole process really demystifies how our digital world gets built. It shows you that with the right plan, the right process, and the right team of architects, pretty much any idea can be brought to life. Which, of course, leaves just one final question for you. What's your big idea?